I went to Beverly Vista. I went to Beverly Hills High School. They were amazing years. We had incredible opportunities. I loved it. I participated on a number of different sports and programs here. And having kids in the district now, it's given me a good perspective on, what we can do that's similar and what we're not doing that I kind of miss, that are opportunities that I wish my kids had here. Part of what I enjoyed so much about Beverly as a student here was the school spirit. I participated again on a lot of sports teams when I was a cheerleader, and so it was really palpable how much people loved the school, how much they supported the teams, and how proud they were. And that's something that it seems to me, I have 2 students that are current Beverly students, that we've lost a little bit of that. And there's a number of reasons why. I mean, it's hard, during a time of construction and a time of great change with, reduced opportunities and challenges, that come up every year, different ones. It's hard to maintain that level of spirit and morale. I mean, when you're proud to work, proud to go to work and the job that you're doing, and you can feel the pride the students have, it makes the experience better overall. I have 5 children. My oldest is in private school and has been for 6 years, and he was a student at El Rodeo. After 2.5 years, his needs were really not being met, and it was incredibly frustrating and painful as a parent to be asking for help that you are denied. And so what I hope to bring to the school board, and what I hope to be able to do, is to really stabilize the school district, to really start improving the experiences and opportunities here for the students, the safety that we offer, and to create an environment where we don't have crises coming one after the other, to kind of calm things down and make some decisions that will secure a more stable future and a path for us. Because I think we'll always be able to do more in that environment than in crisis management mode. Recognizing that we're all on the same team and we're in it for the same reason, and to really be able to put our heads together and figure out what's the best path forward to remedy the deficiencies that we've identified in the district. That also speaks to the type of management. I believe in giving people a platform where they have the ability to soar. And if they demonstrate they need help, to give them the support that they need. But you're not going to know what someone is capable of unless you give them the opportunity to really do that. And that is across the board, from the superintendent to the administrators, principals and assistant principals, and teachers. And while I'd been involved in PTA for 10 years, that experience on Future Focused really gave me an in-depth exposure to the way that our schools are funded, the way that we use taxpayer funds to administer our education here, where we're deficient, where we can do better, what programs have worked that we've not been able to go forward with. And it really exposed a lot of the challenges that we've struggled with for a long time. We've had the opportunity to adapt and evolve, and we haven't really done that. And after Future Focused, I got involved in the bond measure. I co-chaired the bond measure for Measure BH to help build the infrastructure. So that actually gave me another set of data points and information about what projects that we have coming up, what they're budgeted to cost, and the timeline for the master schedule for completion. So it's a very thorough understanding. I've spent the last year really preparing for this role, even beyond Future Focused and the bond measure. I spent my summer reaching out to former board members, former city council members, former city treasurers, union reps, teachers, former teachers, everyone that I could talk to about their experience in BHUSD, so that my candidacy is very well-rounded. The programs that I think we need to bring here and implement more in BHUSD are those that really promote critical thinking, problem solving, Socratic discussion and debate, that give us a better understanding, or not us, but the students, a better understanding and grasp of the material in a way that's meaningful to them, not just, vocabulary words on a page or a Scantron. I think it needs to be something that they become invested in. I love the idea of the one-to-one technology. I would like to see the classrooms and the lesson plans evolve to something that drives more understanding than just testing of the factoids. We can elevate what we offer at the middle school level and then support it through the high school level. I think we'll see higher performance, and I believe that's the only thing that's really going to drive large groups of people back into the district, is the offering of education. I believe that a board member is a trustee and a fiduciary, and this is a little bit different from an elected official like a city council member, where you're the people that elect you benefit from the role that you play, but the role of a board member is not the same as a city council member, because your electorate is not who you're serving. It's the school district that you're serving. And so, you know, that's something I think not a lot of people recognize, that it's not about one student or one family. It's about all of the students and all of the families at all of the schools, and making sure the choices that we make as a leadership arm of the district are sound and will benefit all of the community members and stakeholders. The best advice I've ever received is to trust my gut. I don't think that people rely on their instinct enough. I think a lot of times we talk ourselves out of things that we, you know, have a feeling about but can't exactly articulate why. There's actually a book that I read that is just a remarkable book. I advise everyone to read it, called The Gift of Fear. It was by Gavin de Becker. And it's really all about, you know, listening to your intuition and what it tells you and not questioning it. And I've found personally that that is one of the most remarkable things. That's changed my life, being able to not talk myself out of things, saying, oh, you're being silly, oh, this isn't what you really think it is, you know, just really trusting my instinct and following what it tells me.
I went to a school called Detroit Country Day. It was it's a wonderful school, actually, in Beverly Hills, Michigan. It's like this little small town in the suburbs of Detroit called Beverly Hills, Michigan. And so my dad is a very, very strong man, and he's a pastor. So, I mean, just right there, you know, not only did I get the kind of the teaching of how to be a good son, a good brother, and a good man, you know, as a person, a good person, but I also got spiritual lessons, you know what I mean? And it shaped my moral character, my moral compass. It's something that was pretty cool to have. And once again, to see someone that no matter what, you know, they were about what they were about, and they believed it. Character is a big deal. You know, integrity is something you have to have whether people are watching or if they aren't. I think that, you know, being able to, you know, have something you believe in and believing in it enough to stay the course, to not give up. We have a lot of challenges in this district right now. I mean, not one or two. There are multiple things that we have to try to get right. So once you are able to take in the information, once you're able to understand what the issues are, if you are able to then believe in that, being able to stay the course and get done what it is that we're setting out to get done. And I think I can do that, and we have to do that because we have to solve a lot of problems right now in this district. We really don't have a school if our kids aren't healthy and if our kids aren't safe. If a student can't be healthy and safe, then there's really no point of really trying to educate. You know, you're building upon a bad foundation. So I think it's important for us to actually continue, I believe, the fight against Metro with all we have, to make sure that we don't ruin the only high school that we actually have. As far as one of the challenges we have is just making sure that our kids are the most prepared that they can possibly be for, you know, college and beyond. I think that's obviously one of the most important things. And then also just re-establishing this sense of community where there's a trust between the parents and the district and the board, and people are working together again and feeling like there's a good relationship. I think that's a very big thing that we have to work on. I think it's great that you guys have these opportunities, and I think opportunities to work with technology are so important because the world is consistently changing. The real world has these opportunities all the time, and if we can prepare our students to be ready for those at the earliest age possible, that's what I would like. I would like to see that type of program put into as early as possible, as like Legos, you know what I mean? If they can learn how to program and build apps from kindergarten and first grade, second, that would be something that I would really like to see happen, so that they're, you know, advanced more than any other school, any other district in the country. I began to understand the pride that they have and what they want out of this district, the belief that this district is the best, or it should be the best. So I can feel that it resonated with me. I also began to learn how our current finances are, where we are currently financially, where we are academically, and how we can improve, you know, how we're good and how we can improve. So I got that education as well. No matter what, the most important thing is actually achieving and attaining the goal, having the final product. We have to answer and solve some problems. We have to solve these problems, and we have to solve them now. And we can't be hung up on our titles, our positions. We have to be open and listen, and hopefully some of that will, permeate the rest of the board, and we can work together to finish and finalize a lot of these things so we can move forward. With our teachers, if we get the relationship strong, that's what I would like to bring, is a foundational relationship back to this community that's built on trust and honesty, and we can actually have that, strong relationship. I think, though, we should do a better job of estimating, and projecting. If we can get a little closer to what the actuals are, it will allow us and open up opportunities for the students. Right now, we have a lot of information on our district website, and I think it's great that it's there, but I think it would be great to have a proactive formula to getting that to the community, whether it's a newsletter, pushing something out to where people can access it, a little bit easier. Because if they don't know that they don't know, then that's a problem. And if someone comes and yells at the board and they don't have the correct information, the board is going to turn off. They're going to say, well, they're uninformed, so this parent is just an emotional parent without the facts. Well, the problem is that we didn't communicate the facts clearly to them so they can actually come with an informed opinion, because they still care. The parent cares, and I want them to feel that I care, but it's difficult if I know they don't know. And if I know that they don't know, I should make sure that they know. And there's a job, has to be done. You don't do it unless it's going to be done right, and you get it done. And there's no excuse. You just do it. Others to say to me, yeah, we've been here forever, or we've been here for however long, and we think you are the person to help us with our kids. That was very humbling. It will be what I honestly have found myself wanting to be, which is a representative of the community, the desires of the community. I've learned by listening, and then by listening, I've gotten information. And so that information is informing my decisions. And so here I am, about to be potentially elected. And so I could never go away from that, because that's how I started. I'm actually representing people and what they care about. Perspective, I think, is different. My experiences are different. While I appreciate, I appreciate someone who's had 55 years in teaching. I appreciate Rochelle Marcus having that in the classroom experience. I appreciate, Tristan, I believe, bleeds, orange, if you cut her, she's a Norman, So, so I appreciate that. I do think, though, that to answer some of the problems that this district has had for a long time, you need a new perspective. Because they want someone to see our old problems with a new set of lenses to hopefully help us solve them. I think I can do that. To trust in God. I believe it's something that when you can believe something that you can't see, and that means you have faith. You can achieve things that others say can't be done, because you can believe you see something that you can't actually see. If we can see ourselves as a district that is robust, that is successful, that is, well populated again, and our finances are exactly where they need to be, and we are a community that no one ever thought we would, we're all singing Kumbaya together. I mean, if we can see something, that's something that I believe helps in a way that cannot be explained.
In April, when I got a call from my mother while I was at school teaching that I had been selected to be a teacher at Horace Mann School. Teaching at Horace Mann, I taught grades 1 through 8, all the girls' physical education. And in the way that I taught physical education was different than what the girls had been used to when I started. I was teaching skills, and I was teaching rules and strategies and all this, and they hadn't been used to that. And I made the kids change for PE. They had to wear tennis shoes, they had to wear shorts, and I brought in a lot of subjects for them. The volleyball, basketball, we did kickball, softball, and my girls always did very, very well. But during my time teaching there, I took an interest in something called folk dancing. And I started to take folk dance lessons, and I started to go to folk dance camps, and I brought folk dancing back to the school. And it was Israeli dancing, Ukrainian dancing, Mexican, Chinese, you name it. We did all sorts of dances. Wow. And at lunch, the students asked me always to put the music on, and they would dance, folk dance, on the playground. 17 years into my teaching, I started to have trouble with my knees. And I went to the doctor, and he said, Rochelle, you've got a problem. You have bone resting on bone, and you need to get out of PE. I said, how do I get out of PE? That's my way of living. I mean, I don't know anything else. Next 10 years, I taught science at 8th grade level to all the kids. I loved it. It was the best thing in the world for me. Moving from one subject to another, the change, it just revitalized me. It renewed me. I loved it. It made me, and it brought me to a different level with the kids. Now I had the boys as well as the girls, which I hadn't had teaching PE. The age of 52, I decided to retire after 10 years. But that was a special golden handshake that they offered. And so what happened was I had 3 years left to go. So Hawthorne had a teacher who didn't show up in September, teaching math and science, and they called me and they asked if I could teach it, which I did. The next year, they didn't even hire anybody. They offered me the job again, but it wild. And I thought, you know, I think I can make this work. So I developed a horizontal and a vertical curriculum using activities from this program and teaching them to grades 1 through 5 once a week, and then picking everything up after 9 weeks and going to another school. I would travel to all 4 schools during the year. The children loved the program. Watched students count on their fingers with the adding and subtracting. I watched them not know their math facts, and I watched them not wanting to think about how to solve problems. And it really disturbed me. And I worked very, very hard. I wanted these kids to be honor students, so that I didn't have any honor students in the class. And I really struggled with them, and I tried to engage them and everything. And when I encountered classes that had 8 and 9 students in them. And wow, that is not the way to run a middle school. And there's no dialogue, there's no enthusiasm, there's no special ideas that the kids can share with each other. You can't mix the kids up to do things together very much. It just was not a good way to run a middle school. And I realized at that point that we were overstaffed. I made the recommendation to the board sometime at the beginning of this year that we should have a dedicated middle school, and that would solve this problem, because there was too few students in each school to run a good middle school. Well, the board voted it down, and that's when I got very upset. So I decided to run for the school board because of those 2 things. One, I was disappointed in the math skills of the students in the 6th grade, and also I wanted to see a dedicated middle school. I believe that in the early years, the students were much more dedicated to learning. I think almost all the students were. Now, I think that because of the change in the scheduling, this way in teaching, and the change in formats, change in curriculums, the students it's much more challenging to the students. But the challenge has been that things have changed, the lives have changed, the kids are getting older faster, and it's just more of a challenge to get the kids to be ready to learn. Those are the 2 reasons that I'm running for the school board. One is to see a dedicated middle school, and the other is to improve the math program. Our math standardized scores are about 20 points lower than our English language arts scores, wow, which is quite amazing, and I was surprised to see that when I started to examine what the math scores to find out what was going on. I also would love to see us bring the budget fiscally sustained so that we're not operating in deficit spending, which we are. I believe that if we go to a dedicated middle school, although it's very difficult for me to say this, over the past 10, 15 years, the number of students that we have has decreased dramatically, and we're running our schools with the same number of faculty, yet we have fewer students, and we don't need as many teachers. We're going to have to let teachers go if we go to a dedicated middle school. It hurts to say that, but that's the truth. We have to be able, it's like you have to live on your budget, and we can't live on a budget if we're overspending, and that's one of the reasons. Maybe these young people can get something I don't know if it will work. I'm not sure, but it sure made it a very impactful situation in the community and probably in the nation because it's felt out there. I see myself as someone who's going to be transparent in explaining and in being in part of the community, being transparent with teachers, being transparent and being this, so that they will know how I feel about things. I want them to know that I take great pride in this community and I take great pride in our schools. I love our schools. My kids went to school here. I've lived in the community for over 45 years. I just want this to be the best school district there is.
Hello, and thank you for joining us here tonight for our candidates debate. We are coming to you live from Kbev Studio B at Beverly Hills High School. I'm Eva Danesh. On November 6, 2018, Beverly Hills residents will be voting for 2 new board members for the Board of Education for BHUSD. The 3 candidates include Marvin Winans Jr., Rochelle Marcus, and Tristan Walker-Schumann. The 2 will be replacing our current board president and member of 9 years, Lisa Korbutov, and board member of 5 years, Howard Goldstein.
Board members that will be continuing their terms include Isabel Hacker, Mel Spitz, and Noah Margot, who will be serving as president.
Decisive issues that will need to be tackled by the new board in the upcoming year include the reconfiguration of our district's middle schools, school security and student safety, declining enrollment, as well as a number of other critical issues that will be addressed in tonight's debate.
Now we have all 3 board candidates here with us. I would like to thank each of you for joining us here earlier today for a one-on-one interview with me that will air on Kbev Channel 6 as well as online. This session will be moderated by myself, Beverly Student Body President Ryan Abershami, and Highlights newspaper editor-in-chief Michaela Rubizadeh.
We will be asking you all a series of questions followed by an order in which the candidates will be answering.
But first, each candidate will have the floor for their opening statements. We will be starting in alphabetical order with Mrs. Marcus, then Mrs. Walker-Schumann, then Mr. Winans.
Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, and thank you to the Beverly Hills Kbev staff and students for facilitating this debate. Once again, our students are learning about the democratic process and politics, and this is wonderful. In many campaigns, there are partisan politics, but in the Beverly Hills School Board race, there should be no partisan politics, only the issues, how to solve them, and what is best for our children and students. Hi, my name is Rochelle Marcus, sometimes better known as Mrs. Marcus. I have taught for over 50 years in the district and at one time or another at all 5 schools. I have lived in Beverly Hills for 45 years. My children, Marty and Joy, attended the schools and graduated from Beverly Hills High School. I am asked why I'm running for the open seat on the school board. We are at a critical time in the school district. I believe my educational experience, institutional knowledge, passion, and dedication qualify me to lead and resolve the many issues facing us today. Many of you watching have had me as a teacher, and you know that I love students and that their education is first and foremost to me. It is probably that love which kept me in the classroom for so long. But now I have decided to change careers and seek a seat on the school board because I think we need to revitalize and renew our schools. I'm running because I do not necessarily agree with some of the issues and some of the decisions made by our present school board. My 5-point plan includes students and their education first, fiscal responsibility and maintaining a sustainable budget, security and safety using the latest technology, improved relations with our city council, and transparency to regain the trust and work while working with teachers, community leaders, administrators, and parents. Our schools no longer have the reputation they once had. Our enrollments are dropping dramatically. We cannot keep doing the same things over and over and expect the same results. We need to have a designated middle school which will be more vibrant and more dynamic and will provide a better education and prepare the students for the high school. We will provide more enrichment and elective classes. Hopefully, this will keep and attract more students and bring us back so that there's no more deficit spending. I want every child to achieve and feel engaged and be ready for the next grade level. The safety and well-being of every student is of utmost importance, and we must continue to provide both physical and psychological security and support for our students. We need to provide counseling and guidance to help our students meet the everyday challenges. I know what it takes to be open to new ideas and suggestions in order to provide an excellent education. We need experience to provide excellent educational programs. We need a new school board majority willing to commit to the students and their education. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Walker-Schuman.
Thank you, Kbev, Highlights, ASB, Eva, Ryan, and Michaela for taking the time and interest to cover this upcoming board election. This is very exciting. For the first time ever, our school board election coincides with midterm elections, which means we have approximately 3 times the number of voters than in previous school board elections, which is particularly appropriate because this is a pivotal time in our school district. Not only do we have a plethora of challenges that need to be addressed, but we also have a community that's paying attention more now than in decades past. I'm Tristan Walker-Schuman. I'm a product of this school district. I went to Beverly Vista, Beverly Hills High School. My husband, mom, mother-in-law, aunts, sister, and sister-in-law all came up through this system. I was a soccer player, a swimmer, tennis player, and cheerleader here at Beverly. My experience in BHUSD was dynamite. Our opportunities were endless, and morale was high. I graduated from Boston University and moved back to LA. Spent 5 years in advertising and marketing, during which time I got married and had my first child. I started an apparel manufacturing company not long after he was born. I learned how to manage finances, staff, production, and vendor relationships. The apparel business is all about relationships. You always get the best out of people when you show them respect, honesty, and integrity. This business also taught me the value of proper budgeting, procurement pricing, personnel management, payroll, taxes, and most of all, the value of being well-informed and staying well-informed. You cannot properly manage what you don't understand. I returned to Beverly Hills in 2008 and enrolled my kids at El Rodeo. 4 of our 5 children attend BHUSD across elementary, middle, and high school grades. I also have 1 child in private school, which has given me a great understanding of the different environments and the limitations we continually struggle to overcome. I've been involved on the PTA for 10 years, and last year had the privilege of being selected to the Future Focus Schools team. This was an amazing opportunity to take a deep dive into the way our district is funded, how we allocate taxpayer money, what the historical choices were that brought us to where we are today, and the impact of those choices. We were tasked with examining the way we deliver education in BHUSD and to consider alternative methods and configurations that would give our students the best opportunities for success in college and career readiness. It was an incredible experience and an amazing group of people. We were diverse and dedicated, and I became a spokesperson for the group, providing updates as we processed through our work and ultimately made our presentation. It was a transitional springboard for me. It revealed the many things we do well in BHUSD and the many ways we've struggled to evolve and adapt in the interest of better serving our students. It ignited a sleeping giant, my affection for this district and the desire to see BHUSD elevated once again to its legendary place. So I continued. After the presentation from FFST and the board's reticence to accept the recommendation of Dr. Breggy and the cabinet, I began meeting with past BHUSD board members. I began meeting with former city officials, current city officials, former treasurers, teachers, former teachers, and union leaders. I began asking questions that revealed a symptomatic approach to academics in our district that was revealing, both inspiring and heartbreaking, so I pressed further. I co-chaired Measure BH to help build our infrastructure to correct the mistakes of the past. This gave me a deep and comprehensive viewpoint of the projects included in the bond measure, how it's funded, the impact on our taxpayers, and the overall master schedule timeline. Measure BH passed, and I'm proud to have been part of the leadership team that made it a reality. But I also felt responsible for properly managing how these funds are used and delivering on the promise of Measure BH. Education should come first in BHUSD, and for a while now it's been simmering on the back burner while we manage through what seems like endless crises. We need to refocus and make education and curriculum priority one. We need to evaluate what areas we can innovate and improve upon and think outside the box to find solutions to known challenges. We need to establish a different standard and then work to implement methods to reach those goals. As I've stated repeatedly, our middle level grades need support, and our overall student outcomes will improve if we focus on building in that area. We would also be well served to continue to develop our career technical education program, offering students additional pathways for career readiness as an alternative to the standard A through G requirements for graduation. But ensuring success does not only encompass classes, curriculum, and textbooks. It also encompasses social emotional components and safety. I'm thrilled that the passing of the bond measure ensured installation of state-of-the-art security features and proactive measures. In addition to, I look forward to continuing the discussion about manpower component and layered security methods. My platform begins with financial stability. Fiscal stability is imperative to the success of any business. Public education is no different. There are several ideas I have for ways of controlling expenses, using the Finance Committee to maximize their efficiency, implementing a general ledger, and streamlining procedures, procurement, and general office business functions to ensure uniformity and consistency. Accountability is also a critical component to success and a metric by which forward motion should be informed. Collaborative leadership is a way to ensure best practice decision-making and interest-based policymaking. So, armed with the wealth of knowledge from my experience as a student and a parent in BHUSD, a detailed understanding of the challenges and education unique to BHUSD from my participation in the Future Focus Schools team, and having demonstrated my leadership skills and deep understanding of the issues we face, and now the awesome responsibility of managing construction projects while simultaneously improving educational outcomes and planning for our future, I'm asking for the faith of our community.
Sorry, your time is up, Ms. Schumann.
Thank you.
Mr. Winans, I head to you.
So excited to be here today. I want to start by thanking Kbev and our moderators, the high school student body president and fearless, Ryan Abershimi, and Michaela, our school newspaper editor, and Eva Danesh, the senior producer and anchor at Kbev, for this wonderful, wonderful opportunity. I want to thank my core team, a wonderful group of parent volunteers who honestly are responsible for so much of why I'm here today. And of course, to my incredible family, my beautiful wife, Monique Winans, our three wonderful children, Marvin III, Miranda Lark, and Marissa Leor, who mean everything to me. And to so many other amazing parents and residents who have truly made moving into this town a pleasure and a joy. Thank you for all of your support. My name is Marvin Winans Jr. I'm the CEO of M2 Entertainment, a music, TV, and film production company. I was born in a small town called Detroit. I graduated from a high school in Beverly Hills, Michigan. So as I say, it was meant to be that I'm running for Beverly Hills School Board here in California. I never expected to be doing what I'm doing here today. This is not a career move. I've never had any ambition to be involved in politics, ever. We moved into Beverly Hills simply because my wife and I wanted to provide a great education in a great community for our children. After moving here, I was inundated with how our district was failing. It was enough to make most people pack up and run back down Burton Way. So I empathize with the parents who have told me that they are looking to leave this district because there's just too many negative things going on. Metro, by deciding to drill a tunnel under our one and only high school, which sits on top of an active oil field with pockets of methane gas, hydrogen sulfide, and dozens of unmapped oil wells, seems to be picking on us for apparently no reason, when there's a faster, much simpler, and $400 million cheaper route right down Santa Monica Boulevard. Our own city council as well, for no rational reason, refused to protect our students from the looming national crisis and threat of mass shootings by providing us with permanent police protection inside all 5 of our schools. See, I understand the parents who are looking to possibly leave because they're overly frustrated and tired of fighting a board that attempts to make drastic decisions like reconfiguring the entire model of education in the middle of the night without properly communicating its plan to its community. I get it. And many times I have had to wonder how I felt and what was I going to do. My children deserve the best, just like yours. They are at an age where anything is possible. But since I have 3 young children, I'm running for a seat because I don't have the luxury of running away. I'm vested. The success of my children are tied to the educational decisions I make for them right now. So I've decided to adjust my focus. Instead now of seeing failure, I see opportunity and potential. Instead of waiting and waddling in disappointments, I got courageous and I got involved. As a PTA co-president at Beverly Vista School, I've seen how much a collective group of passionate and relentless parents can do when they are working together for our kids. So I'm running for school board because I'm tired of seeing adults making decisions that benefit adults at the expense of our children. This is not a position to show off our power. It is not some feat to be sought after simply because we look up and find ourselves needing a new challenge to accomplish. Neither is it something you are given on a silver platter as some kind of inheritance. Beverly Hills School Board, as with any city school board, should set vision for the district and meet its fiduciary responsibilities. But most importantly, should fight for the health, safety, and educational needs of the children from the city of that district. So don't listen to those who tell you that good character, strength, and passion for the children aren't important when selecting a board member. Because it takes good character to do what's right, not only when it's politically expedient, but when no one is watching. Strength to withstand the strong tides of opposition and make decisions based on the merits and not emotion. And it takes passion for children strong enough to put your own ideas down for long enough to listen to the opinions of others, especially others who care like parents, who care so much. It is an optimistic passion that drives good parenting, good teaching, and every successful student who goes on to achieve greatness in this world. It is this type of optimistic passion that is driving me to look beyond what I see and stand up and be the difference the district needs. That's why I'm asking for your vote, so that we can bring a different, independent, and passionate voice to the Beverly Hills School Board. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
So we're going to get into the questions, a couple rules for the questions. Each person will have 90 seconds to respond to the questions that is directed towards them, and the other 2 candidates will have 60 seconds to respond. So the first question, or the first topic that we're going to be discussing is the Metro. So we're going to start with Ms. Marcus. Let me get the timer out. Give me 1 second. So the first question is, Eva, go ahead.
So what is each of your stances on the Metro's Purple Line extension going under their plans to tunnel under Beverly Hills High School, which would be starting soon if we don't stop things now? So Ms. Marcus, we'll start with you, and then again go in alphabetical order with Mrs. Walker-Schuman and then Mr. Winans.
From the very beginning, I have been opposed to the tunnel going underneath the high school. I know that for the last 9 years, we have fought and spent a lot of money trying to defeat it, to get it to go back to where it was. So far, we have not been able to do that. I still am opposed to it going underneath the high school. However, there's still one small chance, an appeal that's out there in the courts that's being litigated that might have some chance for us. But if it doesn't pass, and I'm not sure what will happen, I mean, when the judge comes back with his decision about whether the documentation is enough or not enough, I am still opposed to it. I think we need to fight to make sure that our students are protected. We need to do everything possible to eliminate the problems by using Tier 4 equipment. And I believe that we need to work with the the City Council to collaborate with them, and to get them to monitor with us all the memorandums of achievement, of the memorandums of understanding. We need to keep close watch on it and work very closely to protect our students, your students, all the students from this, but I'm opposed. I don't know now what is the next step, to be very honest.
Thank you so much. That's 90 seconds. Ms. Walker?
At the time Measure R was passed in 2008, the publicized route was under Wilshire and Santa Monica Boulevard. Since it was changed subsequently to that, I've signed the first petition that circulated in 2012 opposing the realignment underneath the high school. I don't think it ought to go underneath the high school. I think there are too many risks associated with it, yet here we are. So we've done what we can to stop that from proceeding along that route. That was the proper path to take. Everyone is here to ensure that we have the shared goal of keeping the kids safe and ensuring their well-being. I think we need to stay vigilant to ensure that whatever happens, we hold Metro accountable. And we need to consider, the tactics that were employed and how effective those tactics have been in terms of how we move forward. I agree that we need to do everything we can to try to realign to the original route. But I also think at the same time, and this is what parallel paths mean when I talk about that, we also need to take all of the make all of the procedural requirements that we can to mitigate the damage and the risk to the children. And I have reviewed the MOA in detail. I'm happy with the requirements that it puts in place, particularly with the independent monitoring and the power that it gives the city to stop work when we see any kind of break through the alert threshold. So I'd like to see more collaborative work with the city. I think that's really important. I think we should continue to defend our school to the extent that we can, but I think we also really need to make sure that we mitigate any kind of risk to students.
That's 90. Thank you so much. Mr. Winans, go ahead.
See, this is actually one of the reasons why I think it's a benefit that I did not grow up here and that I haven't been here for a long period of time, because if it didn't make sense in 2008 and if it didn't make sense in 2012, it certainly still does not make sense now. I just happen to have the vantage point where I am not tired. I haven't gotten worn, and I'm actually still very vigilant with this fight. It makes no sense to dig and drill where there's a high school and sitting on top of the oil field, where we can potentially have methane gas and hydrogen sulfide pockets. It's something that, for me, is something I will continue to fight. I've taken the fight to the White House. I've met and talked with people in the Secretary of Transportation's office. It's something that I was doing long before I considered running. And so for me, it's not a political thing for me. I didn't come and join you guys for the walkout because it was something that I felt would make me look good and maybe win some votes. This is something that I believe in. It's something I will continue to fight for. Whether or not I win or I don't, I will continue to fight for this. And I believe it's important that we all support not only the children, but everyone who understands that the lives of our children are important, and the future of this community's high school is at danger. So I'm totally and completely opposed to Metro coming under the high school.
So thank you all for your responses. If anyone would like to respond to another candidate's comment, they have 60 seconds to do so.
Okay, I'll respond.
Go ahead.
I came to the students' walkout to encourage the students and to make sure they were safe, to be a part of the lesson plans that were offered in civil disobedience and social action. I think that's a tremendous asset, and it's very important. And I believe, actually, Mrs. Marcus was there for the same purposes. Supporting our students is really a separate issue from fighting Metro, in my opinion.
Okay. Anybody else would like to respond before we move on to the next question? Ms. Winans, would you like to respond?
Oh, well, no, I think that's done.
So one more question on the topic of the Metro. We students want to know if you guys support the pulling of funds from the Measure E bond to pay for litigation against the Metro. Ms. Walker, you have 90 seconds to respond.
I'm not entirely sure that that was the appropriate way to pull the funds. If we hadn't taken them from the bond measure, it would have come out of the general fund. Either way, I think there's significant impact to what we're able to do with the money we still have allotted for things like construction and for programming. So I'm not entirely sure that would have been the choice that I made had I been in that position. And I think we really need to be careful the choices that we make moving forward in terms of litigation and how the funding is represented.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Winans.
Fighting Metro has actually become a three-pronged kind of attack. You have the media attention, the PR, I believe, that we received with the walkout. You have litigation, which we have in the court. And we also have the political route where we're trying to meet and do what we need to do with the Secretary of Transportation and also the White House. So without the litigation, we would not have a leg to stand on when it comes to meeting politically and try to get them to halt anything with Metro. Because once we were asked the question, well, have you gone to court? We would have said, well, no. And how can they believe that we actually believe what we're saying if we have not put our money where our mouths are? So it's important, it's imperative that we actually decided to use funds that were for the school to make sure that we defended the school. Without it, and we're still fighting it, and I don't know what you guys believe, but this is a real risk. This is not something where if they come and they make a mistake, we'll just, go down the street. This is a real risk. So we have to give it our all because it really does make a difference. And so I support the fact that they use the funds because that's the funds that they had had available. So this is a real situation, and we need to do everything possible to stop it.
Thank you. Ms. Marcus.
I would just like to mention that it had something to do with transparency. I believe that the funds, when they were used, the board was not totally transparent that the funds were coming out of the Measure E. That would be had been my biggest complaint. If I had known about it and had some, not input because I'm not on the board and I don't have, this is all in closed session and I don't have any part of that, I would like to have known about the transparency of where the funds were coming from. I do think we need to use funds, as Ms. Walker said, we do need to use the funds to fight it, and that was my opinion at the time, that transparency was very important.
Okay, thank you. Would any of you like to respond? You guys have 60 seconds. Any of the other candidates' responses?
Okay, we're just going to move on to the next topic, which is reconfiguration.
Mr. Winans, this starts with you. What are your thoughts on reconfiguration?
My thoughts on reconfiguration. I think that, we, as a part of the FFST, did a lot of study, and we found that there were some issues within the 6th, 7th, and 8th grades that we need to actually fix. And so for me, it's unfair to any student that isn't given the best chance to succeed from an educational, academic, and just a well-rounded, opportunity. I believe that we need to do what is best for the children. And so I believe that we should study and make sure that the questions are answered to see if maybe reconfiguring to a different system is appropriate. However, I do believe that the 6th and 7th and 8th grader that is in class this week needs to have the best education possible. So if I sit on the board, when I sit on the board, I will do my job to make sure that they're getting what they need today or that day. And so for me, reconfiguring is great, and we should study it, but it's important that the children in 6th, 7th, and 8th grades are given the best opportunities to succeed educationally right now.
Mrs. Marcus?
Well, this is not a new topic, as you know. It's been around for many, many years since I've been here, and it's about the 3rd time that the subject has come up. I've been in the trenches. I've been in the classroom for the last 2 years observing the small classes. This past year, I substituted at Hawthorne, and this was true of the other schools that had only 7, 8, and 9 kids in it. Now, people say that's good for education, but it isn't. Small classes do not make for dynamic teaching. We can do a better job with a middle school, and we can give the kids better enrichment classes, better electives. We can perhaps eliminate the deficit spending. The teachers working together can be much more collaborative when they're teaching and are all in the same school. And I just think that the kids will be in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade will come to the high school much better prepared for the education that they will get in the high school. And they will already be able to develop some interests through the electives and what paths they would like to take when they get to the high school. So am I a proponent of 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in a dedicated middle school? You better believe it.
Mr. Winans, In response to Ms. Marcus, what do you have to say about your
Well, I have a
point?
question. I mean, which electives, and also how many students would you say, going to middle school will, how many kids will be in each class?
I would say that there would be a possibility of having at least 26 to 28 children in each class. That's number one. That would be ideal, right? Except for 6th, 7th, and 8th. I also feel that you can have a very vibrant band and orchestra. You can have a musical program. You'll have people that may be doing newspapers. You may have musical productions, STEM, robots, all kinds of electives that the kids can take that now may be offered at one school but not at another. So I think that you will offer a very vibrant elective program with the middle school.
Mr. Winans, before we get to your response, Ms. Walker, would you like to respond on what your thoughts are on reconfiguration?
I also support a dedicated middle school. We examined enough undeniable information about how we are not serving our students and where we can better support them to ensure success during Future Focus. There was no argument. The question was, how do we get there? And I think this board has recognized and kind of come to their senses that there really is only one path. In all of the discussions that we had about reconfiguration and all the things that we know a middle school can offer, I've never heard any suggestions on how we can actually improve the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders' experience in this current configuration, given our current financial restraints. So I think that's a really important component. We've never heard any of those things articulated. I agree with Mrs. Marcus that the electives that can be offered would be far more robust and would finally have parity for all of the students instead of being offered only at one school and the others not having the benefit of that. And I also think that a middle school sports program would be an amazing way to get the middle school students more involved and prepare them for sports at the high school level, which we know to give a measure of discipline and help boost student success. So I'm a big proponent and supporter of the dedicated middle school. I have been since the end of Future Focused in our proposal.
Thank you. Mr. Winans, we understand that during the FFST meetings, you had a difference in opinion on a dedicated middle school or the configuration of our 5 schools. Can you elaborate more on how your views differ from the other candidates?
So for me, during the FFST, and Ms. Rochelle, Ms. Marcus wasn't a part of that, but Ms. Walker-Schumann was. It was simple for me, and I give an analogy where if you asked me if I should recommend to you if you build a house and you didn't know how much money the house was going to cost, you didn't have land where to build a house, and you didn't have a blueprint in which to build it, and you asked me if I recommended if you should build it, I would tell you, no, I don't recommend it until you find the information, you come back with a plan. It's, to me, what makes sense. I wouldn't rush to do anything not based on anything emotional. I just look at what the facts are, and I make a decision based on the facts. That was the difference, and I honestly don't understand why they all didn't agree with me. But the truth is I think that's where, maybe my perspective, I started wondering, well, maybe because I'm not from here and I didn't grow up here. I went to middle school. I'm from Michigan, and we had middle schools. I didn't know, you have middle schools here, but that's all I knew. I didn't know the K-8 model. And so for me, I wasn't in it to keep a K-8 or to move to middle school. But there was a lot of that in that room. There were a lot of people who felt that we had been, as a district, behind the rest of the country, where the other cities and other districts had long moved to a middle school. I felt, this is something that we should analyze. I mean, K-8 obviously has been successful because the Lighthouse District that I'm sure Ms. Walker-Schumann will attest was done during the time when we had K-8.
Mr. Winans, we got to cut you off. Thank you so much.
Sorry about that. So, Ms.
Can we respond?
Yes, sorry, Ms. Schumann, you could go ahead.
So just in terms of management of a project, from my perspective, it's a respectable way to choose where you want to go and then reverse engineer how you're going to get there. And that's how I felt we left it with Future Focused. A number of years ago, I decided I wanted to run LA Marathon. So I decided that, and then I spent my time training to do that, to learn all of the different aspects of nutrition and hydration and gait and heel strike and all the things that would successfully help me run the marathon and complete that goal. So in my view, a dedicated middle school is like that. we've decided that this is going to best serve our students. Now let's back into how we get there. And that was the recommendation of Future Focused, was to spend time and study and make a master schedule and talk about staffing and class size and curriculum and programming and what we can offer and build it into the ultimate plan of getting to the dedicated middle school as the goal.
And I have a question for Ms. Markin.
Well, can I just make a statement, another statement on that, or not allowed?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, one of the things that is to be considered is the number of students that you have in the middle school. And when you have a middle school that's got 58 kids, 58 students, it's hardly possible to run a well-balanced program. So I believe that the numbers also were dictating that we had to do something different. We are spending too much money on teachers, and we are overstaffed.
Okay. I have a question for Ms. Marcus and Ms. Walker. Being that you guys are in full-on support of a middle school in our district, of a designated middle school, which school would you believe would become that designated middle school?
I'll go first.
Go ahead.
At the beginning, when this first started, I thought that with El Rodeo under construction, that would be the school that would be the most ideal, because they could make the school according to what the demands of a middle school could be. So that was my idea. I was open to other suggestions, but that was the school that I had thought would be the best school. I heard other schools were being considered, but I only thought about the one that was economically, it was under construction, that they could use it to make it into a middle school.
I had the same viewpoint, yeah. From the exposure on FFST and talking about the footprint and the class sizes, the hallways, you know, all of the things that El Rodeo represents, that it was really a blank canvas that we could make changes to that were over the counter and didn't require to go back to DSA, and really make that the best location for a robust middle school. That was my feeling.
Okay. And before we move on to the next topic, Mr. Winans, would you like to respond for quick 60 seconds?
Well, I mean, just really quick, she mentioned, which I think is great, I mean, the LA Marathon and wanting to do that. But the interesting thing about it is that when you want to set out to have a goal where it only affects you, you can do what you want to do. But this affects thousands of people, thousands of families, people who have moved here, that spent their money. It affects the district, the future of the district. If you make a decision too fast and it fails, it affects everyone's values of their homes. It's a lot more to consider than if you want to do an LA Marathon or not. So I respect that you wanted to do it, but I think you have to be a lot more cautious when you're dealing with people's lives, their children and their families, and their, you know, the values of their homes and everything else. So I think we have to make decisions that are thorough, that they are prudent, and we make them based on the merits and not emotion.
Okay.
Now, on the topic of student morale, with the absence of mandatory school-wide assemblies and our now divided campus due to construction, there's been an obvious shift in student morale, and especially when it comes to school spirit and involvement. How do you plan on boosting student morale, and why do you think that we have this sense?
Who's that for?
We could start with Mr. Ms. Marcus, and then go down the line.
Well, I think that you can still have programs that will boost morale, and you can still have programs in other areas of the school. For example, you can use the playground for programs. We have multi-purpose rooms where you can bring the kids down for the programs. I'm talking about the lower grades now, the K-8 schools, where they do assemblies, where they have spirit assemblies and things like that. The parents are invited. So it's still possible to boost the morale of the younger students. At the high school, I believe you still have some opportunities there. Well, you have the football games, and you have basketball games where you can, and you have the dance programs, you have the music programs, you have the musical that you put on. I think that you have a good chance to keep the morale up. But of course, the loss of the auditorium has done a lot of damage to that.
Thank you. Ms. Newman?
Honestly, I don't know that there's a way to build the morale from where it is right now just by trying to boost attendance at certain events. I think right now it's really more of a self-identity kind of crisis that we're having. between the construction programs and the fight against Metro and the issues with the teachers union, the impact that that's had on the children is remarkable, and that's going to take a while to rebuild. So from my perspective, in order to boost morale, I think it would be more attention on the social emotional components of high school students, on team building and leadership opportunities for the students, and also for the teachers, because the teachers are really a barometer for the students about how they feel here in the day that, when they matriculate through their classes. So I think we need to really help on boosting the teacher morale and helping the teachers feel, part of something important. And then, kind of bring the students along with that, but really by leadership programs and team building, I think.
Thank you. Mr. Winey?
You boost morale by not only saying something, but doing what it is you say. We need to finish the construction at the school. I mean, as simple as that. When the kids look up and it's been years and years and it doesn't seem like anything is being done or completed, then they're going to start to feel like you don't care. I mean, we need to finish the construction. Once the construction and everything is, or at least we show that we're working towards it and we're doing what we need to do, then I believe that they'll begin to feel like, the district cares for them. I also believe that we continue to invest into the CTE programs that, people care about. I was just touring and looking at the audio program, the audio production program, and working with you guys at Kbev, there's an excitement when you get an opportunity to do things that you love to do. I think just showing the simple things like finishing the construction, doing what it is you say and you seek begin to do, and also putting more investment and time into the CTE programs and finding the things that kids love to do and actually investing in those things.
I have one more comment.
Oh,
Just
yes.
a quick comment that one of the things that I had planned to do as if I'm elected, or even if I'm not, is to spend more time in the schools, talking with the students, hearing what their concerns are, being present in their lives so that they know that the school board isn't just something that sits over there in a chair, that makes decisions, but that they can actually see who we are and that we care and that we're here for them. And I think that's very important.
Thank you. So, Mr. Winan, you spoke about speeding up construction. How do you plan on doing that? What plans do you have?
Well, I think the board has done a great job of getting Mr. Don Blake and his team, the facilities director, involved. I think his track record it speaks for itself. I call him Captain America because he's done so many great projects all over the country, and he seems to do them on time and on budget. So for me, I believe that following the lead and working with the team that is in place now is going to get that done. So that's what I would say. They have a plan and they're going to work on that and they're getting it done now.
And Ms. Schumann, do you have any comment about speeding up construction?
I mean, anytime that you can save time and money and reallocate, efforts and funds in a different way, I think it's something worthwhile to consider. We saw yesterday in the study session that they've clearly been working on that path, but still in best case scenario, that's 5 years out for completion at the high school. So, there's still clearly some work we need to do to remedy, some of the issues in the short term. But anytime you can speed things along in a more effective, thorough manner, use more resources concentrated at one place at one time to save money, I think that's a reasonable thing to consider. And it certainly seems like that's the path for this team, which I wholly support.
Thank you. And Ms. Marcus?
No, I'm good.
I would just like to ask a question from anyone who would like to respond. Are your views on reconfiguration, do they alter based on the current construction model that we have?
When you say construction model that we have,
I mean, being that the metro is going under, some construction might change, because it's not. I don't believe that the construction model is set in stone right now. I think there's a lot of things that could happen.
It's a lot of moving pieces.
So, do your views on reconfiguration change if construction, the plans of construction were to change?
This is for me?
Anyone who would like to respond.
Okay. I personally, look, I think we have a lot on our plate right now. That's why I think we should focus on making sure the 6th, 7th, and 8th grades, are getting what they need with regarding reconfiguring, you know, I know that that's an option, but I believe that we have a lot on our plate. We have no idea exactly what's going to happen with Metro, and it's a lot for the constituents in this city and the parents of these kids to handle, you know, trying to figure out, okay, if there was an alternative and we were supposed to maybe move kids and Metro comes, but now we're talking about moving kids and shutting down a school. Well, will the high school kids be able to fit in? You know, I heard Ms. Schumann mention about, you know, maybe moving some kids into Hawthorne or into El Rodeo. Well, but if it becomes a middle school, well, you know, can we fit high schoolers and all? I don't think there's enough room for a high school and a middle school, all in elementary, all in the same place. And so, since we do not have an idea exactly what's going to happen, I think it'd be prudent of us to put a pause on the reconfiguration until we get the information and we see what happens with Metro. I think we need to wait.
I'd like to move on to a question about teacher relations.
About what?
Teacher relations.
Can I respond to that, though?
Oh, yes, sure. Sorry.
So I never suggested that elementary, middle, and high school kids should be on one campus. That actually wasn't at all what I had recommended. Clearly, that's not going to benefit
I wasn't
anybody.
saying that.
But I believe that it's imperative that we're able to move forward, because part of why we are deluged right now with the challenges that we're faced with is because we have not effectively made courageous decisions and then seen them through. And so I believe that we do need to move forward, considering the fact that DSA only gives us a certain amount of time between when they grant permits and when we actually can do the construction, and then within a certain time frame, those plans are no longer valid. I think we need to move forward on our construction, absolutely, and also try to figure out configuration, but I don't think we should stop our plan for construction until we figure out reconfiguration. No,
Thank
I
you.
don't support that.
Can I say something?
I'm
Because
sorry.
I wanted to make sure she didn't think I suggested she said that, but
We're going to ask Ms. Marcus if she has something to say, and then I think we have to
Thank
move
you.
on. Okay.
can I?
I agree with
Okay.
Ms. Schumann. I mean, that we need to move on. We don't need to, I mean, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen, but we do need to reconfigure the schools now. And that's what I am running on, is a reconfiguration and a dedicated middle school.
Okay.
I just have a question for Ms. Schumann. A simple question.
Go ahead.
You had suggested, I didn't say you meant that all the high school, that you suggested high school, middle school, and elementary be together. But in our last forum, you gave an alternative to whether if Metro came, and you mentioned taking the kids from the high school and moving them to one of our other locations. So now if you do go through with your plan and you move through with reconfiguring, and that means that there are going to be more kids at one location than there were before, how can you fit all of them in together if we do have to move and do an alternative to where we are now with the high school?
The presumption that idea came from was that the high school would have to be closed and would not be inhabitable, which is not something I've heard either from Metro or from the school board yet. So that was a crisis situation. If the school had to be closed, where could children be reallocated for classes?
Which is still a potential.
Well, it is still a potential, and we have to plan for that, but I don't think that means that we don't move forward on we just asked the community to fund $380 million of infrastructure project. I don't think now is the time that we say, oh, hey, wait, we're actually changing our mind about this. I think we need to be loyal, and we need to see through our promise that we gave to the community to say that we are going to build these schools, and here's what those plans entail. I think we need to honor that.
Okay. We got to move on. Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
move on. Thank you. So,
Thank you.
my question on teacher relations, I'd like to start with Mrs. Walker-Schumann. It seems that there's some animosity between the board and the teachers following the recent impasse negotiations. How do you plan on repairing this relationship?
I don't think that relationship repair happens in a short period of time. I think relationships are built over time, just as trust is. It's earned, and so I think a lot of the work, like raising morale through team building and leadership, has to come from that place. I think we need to spend more time talking about how we can collaboratively work with the teachers, how we can listen to the things that they are saying they need, how we can support them in different ways, so that when it comes time to renegotiate, or we have a crossroads like the contract negotiation, we already are coming from a place of having a solid relationship. I can tell you, Ethan Smith was on Future Focused with us. We worked with him for months. We had a personal investment. So when Ethan and I sat down to talk about the teacher contract and what the issues were and how best to resolve them, we already were coming from a place where we appreciated one another, we understood one another, and we both knew that we had the best interest of the district at heart. And that's, I think, what we need to replicate on a much larger scale between the board and the teachers union, just in a long-term, perspective.
Thank you.
Something needs to work on.
Ms. Marcus?
I have been working in the schools, as you know, for more than 50 years. I have had a wonderful relationship with all the teachers, with the administrators, with members of the board, parents, and students. I have been very, very fortunate. I am a teacher, and I do have feelings for how the teachers felt in this last, but I also took a little bit of a concern about how the students felt and what was going on with the students. And I need to say that, for the record, when I met with the teachers, because I wanted to be impartial and unbiased, I chose not to seek their endorsement. And therefore, I felt that that was the wisest thing for me. And I will stick by that. I think the teachers themselves probably will respect me more for that. And I hope that when and if I start moving, because I will be going back into the classrooms, I will be meeting with teachers, I will be visiting the schools, that we can have a wonderful relation. It's not going to happen overnight, but I don't think I lost the respect of a teacher by doing what I did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Winans.
So first of all, I respect Ms. Marcus's experience teaching for 55 years. And so I do believe, though, that, you don't just get a relationship when it's time to negotiate. You build a relationship before it's time to negotiate. So there's things that have to be done, and this is what I expressed to the BHEA when I met with them, met with not only Ethan but the rest of the council and other teachers, explaining that my relationship and my experience in negotiating contracts and being involved in contracts and having opposite parties have to work with one another. While there's a contract somewhere, sitting somewhere in the dark and nobody's looked at it for years, you build a relationship to where you don't even go back to the contract to even, the work to rule and all of that type of stuff is not something that comes up, because it's about the heart in the relationship that you're able to build. And so I know that, one of the skill sets that I think I bring to the board is the ability to communicate and my sense of understanding when it comes down to relationships. I feel very confident that we would build something more substantive on an ongoing basis, so that when it came time to renegotiate again, we would not have the situation that we just currently or most recently had.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the last question. Eva, go ahead.
So over the past several years, there has been a noticeable decline in the standardized test performance of specifically the upper level students. So what do you guys believe is the root of the problem, and how would we attack that?
And we're only going to give 60 seconds to respond because we got to end it up real quick.
Who do you want to answer first?
We could start with you, Ms. Schumann.
A couple things, and I know this is going to sound a little incendiary, but I don't know that looking at test scores is the best way to measure our success. That's certainly one metric. I don't know that that's the most effective metric. But in answering the question that you asked, I think a lot of the work has to begin in middle school. I think we need to teach our middle level students study skills. We need to teach them about time management, project management. I believe we need to have in the classrooms more Socratic debate, more conflict resolution, more problem solving and critical thinking. And I think if you approach education and the lessons that are planned for the classroom with that as the goal in mind instead of the test performance in mind, that you will naturally see higher performing students, because they will engage with the material, they will internalize it, and it will mean something to them. I think that's a really important component to increasing their performance. But I, again, really think it needs to start in the middle level grades. I also think that a block schedule would be a great way to
Ms. Walker, I'm sorry, your time is up. Mr. Winans, go ahead.
Well, I appreciate the standardized testing. I think it definitely is an indicator of where we are. I also agree with Ms. Schumann that I believe in, a holistic approach and making sure that the students have, more than just a test, that we can see where they are. I think critical thinking, being able to approach a problem from more of a life scenario situation, collaborative, teamwork, where they're working together and being able to, solve problems within different scenarios in the real world. I believe they're going to be preparing themselves for the real world, not just a test. However, I would say that I think, we need to make sure that that there's accountability in the classroom, that the teachers that are working with the students understand that it is. I think it's a dual effort with parents definitely being there, but I believe the parents are there, and I also believe the teachers need to make sure that they're teaching exactly what the children need, and that they aren't, letting them get by.
Mr. Lyons, I'm sorry, your time is up. Thank you so much. Ms. Marcus, go ahead.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that the testing methods have changed dramatically over the last couple of years, and that one of them is that now there's not one answer to the question, but there may be 2 or 3 answers to a question. You no longer just bubble in one answer. You have many choices, and that's a change that's come about. But I have to tell you that this is the first time I met with Dustin Seaman the other day, that when you have testing, what you do with the results of the test is the most important thing. The test is a tool for us to improve our education. And the way to do that is to analyze the learning targets for the questions that are there, see how they address the standards, and then you start to make sure that your curriculum is in balance with those learning targets and the testing. So, and at that point, what you do is you do improved instruction, you do professional development, you have intervention of classes with kids that are having more difficulty. You share teaching practices with other teachers that have better.
Ms. Marcus, thank you so much. I'm sorry your time is up.
So in
One
the
of my stronger.
It happened to me too.
So in the interest of time, we are going to head straight into our closing statements. And we will be shorting them down to about 1 minute if possible.
Oh, no. Okay.
Mr. Winan, since we ended with you for the last question, we're going to start with you for the closing remarks.
Can I speed read? Okay. Thank you. I think it comes down to what you want as a voter. I believe you have 2 clearly different choices. 2 of us are involved in the PTA and currently have children in the district, and 1 of us has a long history teaching. However, if you vote for me, you will be voting for someone who has an outside perspective. Kind of like bringing an outside doctor to give an opinion who hasn't gotten weary and potentially disillusioned with the patient. A fresh perspective has the unique opportunity to breathe life into what many people consider to be a dead situation. So, I ask that you vote for Marvin Winans Jr. for school board. I got out of there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ms. Walker.
Thank you for being here, for your interest and your commitment to being strong leaders in our district. My goal as your elected representative on the board is to have to bring measured, evidence-based, forward-looking collaboration and leadership to the board's stewardship of our district, so we can enable each individual student to find their passions and meet their potential. These are serious times, in need of serious remedies, and with my work ethic, I'm confident that I can lead us through these challenges. As a mother of BHUSD students, I want the best for my children, in the same way that each of you wants for yourselves and for your children. You have 2 votes in this election, and I hope I've earned one of yours so that we can move ahead with elevating education for every individual student who is entrusted to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Marcus.
Once again, I want to thank you, the students here at Beverly Hills High School, Ryan, Eva, and Michaela, for doing this for the debate, and Kbev for facilitating the debate and giving everyone a chance to hear the candidates and understand their points of view. I'm not running for personal gain, but to represent students first, their parents and residents of this great city. I care deeply about our schools, and I want to use my experience in education and instructional knowledge to revitalize and renew the education of our children. With all humility, I know it's not going to be easy, but I'm ready and prepared to take a seat on the board. I understand the job and have the courage and diligence to seek solutions to the many issues facing our district. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and fight for our students. The school board's job is to set goals and policies and then let the superintendent carry them out.
5 seconds.
Oh, all right. Well, I will always be appropriate, represent, and look forward to working with you, a new majority on the school board. There are 2 openings on the school board, and you'll have 2 votes on November 6th.
Thank you so much,
Please
Ms. Marcus.
cast one. I believe I am more than qualified.
Appreciate it.
So we thank each of you for joining us tonight, and we thank you for watching. So make sure to vote on November 6th and we will see you guys next time.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys so much.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.